Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. I pose this question as we begin this podcast. Who are you? 3 words. Think about it for a moment. Who are you? And I'm asking that question. Are you really you? Are you what people want you to see you as? Are you defined by your job? We're going to dig. That's our starting point. And we're going to dig deep into this. This is how this works with our next guest. We throw things up in the air, and then we have some pretty deep realizations that help us heal and move our lives forward. He is an accelerated healing specialist, uses lots of different modalities to help us with those realizations and move life along. Could be his intuition. He's a life coach, hypnotherapist, acupuncturist, and much more. He's Chris Distefano, and he's back with us. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, and thank you, Steve. Happy belated Thanksgiving to you and your guests, your audience.
Likewise. Do you think we're in a good zone here when I ask that question, who are you? Do you think that many of us really can't define who we are for many different reasons?
Truth of it is, none of us can. If you could put it into words, it's not true. We are the reflection. What makes us unique is the reflection of the divinity. And it says in every major religion, that which can be named is not the true I. Ramana Maharshi, who's an Indian saint, his awakening was through who am I?
Really?
Now, yeah. And his greatest teachings were done through silence. So to find out who we are is actually, it's a lifelong thing. I go with the question, what am I? Because it's a slightly different one, because why be normal? But who am I is interesting because the knee-jerk reaction is going to be verbal. We have 3 primary intelligences. We could call them the head, the heart, and the body. We could call it left brain, right brain, and heart. The verbal one, the one that's loud, the one that we tend to listen to, the one that's conditioned, the one that can hold fear, the one that is the only one capable of lying, is the one that's going to say, I am fill in the blank. And we tend by default to give the societal programming of who I am supposed to be. One of the most toxic words you could have is I should, because it means it's not an authentic action. It is an action taken because someone told you it should work. So when it becomes I will, like acts of charity given from the heart, as opposed to compulsory taxes that supposedly go to pay something, it's a very different feeling when the person benefits.
Oh, especially if you take a look at that. What person is going to say, I will pay my taxes? Yeah, no, I should pay my taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I must pay my taxes. So we as we dive deeper and deeper into it, what gets fascinating, because I do a ton of work with people, like one of the biggest things I'm working on right now with a lot of patients are relationships. Now, relationships come into communication. Communication tends to break down because we go into playing the character we're supposed to be, the husband, the wife, the parent, the lawyer, the whatever it is. And we begin to act that part, and we pull out of authenticity, so there's no heart connection any longer. So in order to really, really connect to who we are, one of the easiest ways, and it's not going to be a complete answer, but it's through the body, because the body cannot lie, and the body will reflect through action. When we're taking right action, it feels good. When we're doing things that are not in accordance, if you're miscommunicating with your partner, you feel lousy because the body says, hey, you're not in accord. You're not being true to who you are. So even though we can't put it in words, the body is the map. And more when I work on people, I realize, in a way, I'm channeling their inner voice that they can't hear. I'm channeling what they need to hear. So, didn't quite answer it. I can tell you this much, though. What I do for my work, I was at a seminar, and you were supposed to say, how much is education? How much time are we spending on fun? And how much time are we spending on work? And I'm sitting in the seminar. I asked the guys in my group, I'm like, okay, so what does this fall under? What we're doing right now? Because it was fun, educational, and work all at the same time for me. I found a way to marry my work with my passion. So that's part of what I am.
And I agree with what you say. I struggle with the affirmations when somebody, we're tasked with, let's say, keep a journal and you write things down you're grateful for. I don't see a problem with that. Then there could be affirmations, and many of us will say, I am. What's your daily affirmation? Who are you? I am, fill in the blank. Technically, based on what you said, are those statements true?
Affirmations, thank you for asking. Affirmations are a minefield. Back when I was depressed, I did a mantra about how much I love my life and I love being me, or some nonsense like that. Let me tell you about what it's like to go into a spiral. Only do affirmations that are within our realm of believability. And they should stretch and they should affirm, but they should never be outside of it. And they should never be in contradiction.
Is there value in affirmations?
There's huge amounts of value in gratitude. There's huge amounts of value in knowing and holding our authenticity. And once a habit, you see, I'm going to go there. There's no such thing as free will. I could argue all day with someone on this, but it's not going to change it. I can hold paradox. I can see the free will. We could argue that I made a choice. Really, what happens, there's the power of intent. Ultimately, we intend to shift what the character is, and through conditioning, habituation, developing good habits and patterns, we then respond and react differently to our environment. Affirmations are one way of rehabituating thought patterns. So you're programming the person, I'm more confident. And if it's within the believability, and if we begin to see tangible shift, that helps to build momentum. But for a lot of people, it is just hot air.
So and thank you for that. And I subscribe to that. It's one thing to say a true statement, what you really are, as opposed to what you want to be, which may not even be in your grasp. Let's go to free will.
Yes.
Freedom of choice. I've always believed that no matter what happens to you in life, and it can get really mucky, it can suck bad, but you still have a choice how you're going to deal or how you're going to react to it. That was your choice, i.e. free will. You're saying that it's not really free will, it's intent. I'm trying to process that.
It's kind of like a choose your own adventure book. Remember those when we were kids? You get to the inflection point. You're at the cave. You hear a noise inside. Do you go run up the mountain or do you go into the cave? Both scripts are already written. Now, if prior to getting to that juncture, you have the intent of being a brave lion fighter, then your decision at that inflection point will be reflective of the programming you would put into yourself up until then. You've programmed the character to react to stimuli in a certain way through repetitive action and or thought. So free will, I'm not going to say there's completely no free will because that starts to become dogmatic, but most of what we assign to free will. I'll give a great example. Going back to relationships, that person who triggers you says, hey, nice sweater. And you immediately remember in the back of your mind the time that they picked on you when you were 7. And you go tell them to go pound sand when actually they thought your sweater was pretty nice. You didn't exercise free will. You didn't exercise presence. You exercised running a pattern.
Yep.
A patient who came in yesterday, and I'm working on her. She comes in because she's been having some gut disturbance lately. And that's usually a nervous system thing. So I do some somatic work, do some acupuncture, and also do hypnosis. Come back in the room, her eyes are wide open. Doesn't normally happen. I'm like, what happened? She starts telling me she remembers something that happened 11 years ago. And she's holding guilt over it or something. And as she talks about it, she's like, oh my God, my gut just started hurting. Now, this is, when I say listening to the body, this literally is her body's been screaming at her. The way the world works is she's done plenty of therapy. She got put into my orbit because I'm the person that works this way, because I help to I help speak through the body. Now, where's the choice in any of this? Where's the free will in any of it? You know, people land in my office with physical pain to have me help them solve a life problem. I've seen it happen countless times. Where's the free will in that? We think we have free will, but it's really a series of events unfolding.
So you have two choices. Let's say, and I'm trying to pick one that might not be attached to your past, but they're all going to be. In some
They could
regard.
be attached to the future.
All right, let's say you are in a relationship. You're not sure if it's okay, but it doesn't really fully fit you. You have a choice: keep going with it, or end it, or modify it in a different direction. So, fork in the road, if you will.
Yeah.
One would think, well, it's my choice. Do I want to continue with this? And it could be any relationship, personal, close, work, whatever. I could go either way here. That's my choice. Free will. Or is it?
Here's the really fun part. I'm going to use every single relationship that I deal with. Have you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, to express authentically, and have true communication with the other person in the relationship? Probably not. If you're at that point of not being able to decide, now the waiting is the hardest part.
Well, hold on. Let me I just need to interject there because I'm right on your page. Because if all those things were in place that you just described, you wouldn't be at that blank and crossroad anyway.
Exactly. So now we're going into the free will. How do you learn not to trust yourself to be authentic? How do you learn to be afraid to express what you truly are? What are you being? And is that free will, or are you running a freaking script?
Can't deny it.
Your entire premise is a script. And then you come to this inflection point. Guess what? You're still running that fear script. You're not
or a piece
having
of it.
free will.
Or a piece of it. Could even, whether it's 50%, 10%, 5%, 80%, whatever it is, it's not pure free will. Correct?
You're being exceptionally generous for the sake of the audience, Steve. That's your job. My job is to help people cut through their own BS that no one's done before.
But wouldn't that be true, though?
Hold up that mirror.
But I get you, but wouldn't that be true? Like it's when you're accessing past programs in your subconscious, you might not be all 100%. There might be just a little piece there. Let's say in that relationship, there's communication, you love that person, but it doesn't feel right totally because you have a fear of abandonment. So you're hanging on to them. Maybe they don't totally support you, but you're hanging on to them. Why do you have
Steve,
fear of abandonment?
Do you even love that person? Or are you afraid of abandonment so strongly that you tell yourself you love that person because you see them as, this is where it goes all the way into fear again.
That's what I'm saying.
The lack of authenticity. And this is where the body, again, is everything, because we can have lust that's felt in a whole lot of ways. We can have fear that's felt in a whole lot of ways. But the truth of all of it is the body's going to tell us. Mm-hmm. Like if you're feeling physically uncomfortable thinking about it, if it's tying yourself in knots, if you're not sleeping, if you can't eat, or if you're eating to put it away, all of them pulling you out of presence are fear-based, and you're not controlling it. You're being run by it. So yeah, at a certain level, there's free will. On occasion, there's free will.
It's rare, though. What'd you say?
I would say it is about as scarce of a commodity as trust. They do go hand in hand.
Well, okay, now swinging that door open to the trust situation. It goes both ways, too. Trust for yourself or trust in another person, or both.
You can't trust another person until you trust yourself. I told the patient yesterday, I said, listen, because we were talking about her daughter who has a diagnosis. And I told her, I was like, your daughter is living her diagnosis. There's no challenge being given and no room for growth because she's been boxed in by everyone, including you. It was a harsh truth. And I said it because I literally preceded it with no one's going to tell you this. So, to move forward from that, it comes to the lack of resiliency or trust in ourself and frankly in a higher power. And if anyone has a hard time with that, that's okay too. Trust yourself at least. Because I said, when I learned to trust, and I trust at a very, very high level, why? Because I have been absolutely betrayed at every level so hard.
You personally?
Me personally have been blown up.
I hear you loud and clear. The same.
And you know what happened from that? You see, what's going to happen is a person can go into their shell and be like, I will never trust again until I realize that's my prison. That's my depression. That's everything else. Or I could be like, you know what? What the hell? I lived through it, and I'd rather live a life that's open. I'd rather live a life that's authentic. I'd rather live a life that's vulnerable and true and deal with what may come because I know I can handle it because I have, than lock myself in a prison and pretend and be a character.
I agree wholeheartedly. Do you ever fully trust again?
100% all the time because it doesn't matter. I will not live without trust because I can't, because I've done it before and it sucks. It hurts. It's not worth the price. I trust 100% because you know what else happened though? My ethics are through the roof. There's nothing that someone can do to me that's gonna sting.
It's almost as if been there, done that. You can't do it again. Somebody can't do something to you or whoever in terms of breaching trust because you don't care.
Yeah, I'm
Because
basically bulletproof. Like if I'm going to go into a partnership with someone, yeah, it'll be separate accounts and all this other stuff, but it'll be fine. What do they say? Trust but verify. Ram Dass. I love the quote, and it's not his. It's an Arab one. It's like trust in Allah, but hitch your camel. Yeah, I'm not stupid. I'm not going around, a complete Pollyanna.
yeah,
But by the same token, the locking away, it's just closing the heart. There's no authenticity, there's no truth, and frankly, there's no self-belief or self-love to live like that. At that point, if I live like that, I view myself as absolutely, and I'm not going to say nothing because that's actually an attribute. I view myself as small and weak.
I can see this whole thing very clearly, and I'm the person that trusts others, maybe to a fault, not so much anymore. Had two partnership ventures in the past year, nothing bad, but what it turned, and I see what happened with it. And I'm being transparent here. I've always been a people pleaser, pulled back on that radically, but
Yeah.
entered into these two different business type situations. And it turned out to be where, wait a minute, I'm pulling the lion's share. I'm doing most of the work. Now it started with everybody else doing the work. And then once things started materializing and getting more concrete, wait a minute, why am I the only one sitting here, worrying about it? Why am I doing the work? It's like others, put it on autopilot. And these are close friends. I mean, but it wasn't fully defined. It was a handshake. I write on that. Terms very clearly should have been defined. What did I do with both of those situations? Pull the partnership plug. All good. No bad hard feelings, anything like that. It was just like, the visions didn't work out. Should have been identified in the beginning. But, I take responsibility for trusting that others would be pulling the same weight.
Not even just that, Steve. You gave me so much more. You also trusted yourself to walk into it. Whatever happened, you walk out whole. Also, you learned incredibly powerful lessons.
Yes, I did.
At, frankly, a minimal cost.
Because this is true.
You had the courage and the resiliency to pivot when necessary. Most people get locked into a consistency bias. So that's incredibly powerful. You trusted yourself and your judgment. More so, you are now better equipped for the next go round. You seriously, it's all wins. It's all winning. And this is the best part. In the end, one of the most powerful skills we'll ever develop, and we develop it every day. And it's a choice. The choice is, are we going to resist or will we learn? Your discernment has now deepened. And discernment that can't be taught the easy way very often.
I'm not going to agree, but I do. And interesting how things pan out in one of those situations, which was a little more costly in terms of the situation. We had to part ways, right? It stung. I was like, really? Okay, whatever, negotiated, blah, blah, blah. The day it wrapped, something swung back in my favor, and it was a wash. Financially swung back in my favor, all the way it should be. There's nothing unscrupulous happened at all, but it swung back, and it turned out to be a wash. So it was like a lesson learned, but nothing lost. It was just
because,
more gain.
Steve, here's the miracle. And this goes back to what you are, and I'm sorry to cut you off because that's exactly what it is. You left yourself open. You see, what happens is, here's the absolute truth. You can read, if you like the Bible, you could read it. If you like any other book, you can read it. It's all right there. This is actually what we are. The representation of infinite consciousness in this apparent 3D plane, which is a collapse of the infinite. Original sin would be where we essentially cut a bubble off the infinite. Everyone has what would be called a flaw, but it's not really. That fractals through and creates what we would call the individual. Now, the really cool part about that is, by definition, we are of the infinite. You cannot subdivide the infinite, so by definition, we're actually infinite. We are always provided for. If you pay attention, watch goats running up and down cliffs, you will see we are protected. I swear, just watch that a few times. And when we operate from fear, then that's going to be the Outwitting the Devil book by Napoleon Hill. Great book. When we're operating from fear, we're literally pushing away the opportunity for abundance to flow into us. When we are operating from scarcity, we are removing that from our lives. You had an incident happen, but kept yourself open. You were given a lesson for free. That is the most beautiful, bountiful gift you could possibly bestow, because you didn't resist, you didn't fight, you didn't say, poor me. You put one foot in front of the other and were made whole.
I have to agree.
I try not to go this way, but I can't help it sometimes. I really can't.
It's, that got a little deep there. However, I agree with you. Though I learned a lesson, and a really good one. But it's minimal expense in minimal expense in all of it. And on the back end, the things that I put in place, I'm going to run with them in another direction. It just wasn't running in the direction that somebody else had, and all good. We went in so many different directions today, from trust to gratitude, to choice to free will. Wow.
But this is honestly, and I was kind of feeling it. This is the core of what the holiday season is. In reality, it's coming from that authenticity of giving of ourselves. And to give of ourselves, we have to know and love what we are, or who we are, if you're not me. And that's really what it's about, that authenticity. And Steve, honestly, I love your story, because that is such profoundly deep proof of what I would call divine guidance or divine protection or higher power or guardian angels or whatever it is, because it literally is saying, no matter what happens, you can trust us, you can trust this world, you can trust yourself. And that is priceless. That's all I can say. Priceless.
I wouldn't have gotten the lesson as clear. Might have taken me time to process that, in terms of the trust lesson and assuming others will do the same as I do and all of that, except that at the same time, separate situations, projects, the theme was there. My role was the same in both of those. And that's Steve,
I hate to do this to you because I know we're running short on time, but what does that say about free will when the world itself is putting the events together and we're running one foot in front of the other through our patterns in those synchronicities. It's a dance, bro. It's a dance.
That I can't deny either. Oh, I love how we run deep, but to me, it's understandable. It's clear. Yeah, sometimes, it can get a little deeper than deep. But when you think about it, the free will thing, think about that. Think about that. Is it real? Is it real?
You're here to keep me in check, Steve. You keep me grounded. Otherwise, I fly away like a hot air balloon.
Reel them back in. How do we find you? This is, what you do. Have people have epiphanies, guide them. You do it on a daily basis. And it took me years to figure out a lot of this stuff that you, in a short period of time, you point out for all of us. How do we find you?
The easiest way is my acupuncture. That's scarsdalehealth.com. Also, Chris at acceleratedhealingspecialist.com or my website, acceleratedhealingspecialist.com.
Always great talking with you. I take notes too, and I'm sharing those with others. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I'm keeping a notebook now. I'm going to transcribe.
Well, Steve, the offer is out there to you and the audience. If you have questions, if you need to elaborate, whatever, hit me up. I probably have a video on it, or I can just, because this is what I've been through is enough that I can distill and point in a direction. I am a particular case that's gone through everything, almost. So it's hard to find something that I haven't had exposure to.
And I appreciate your transparency in that. You walk the walk and talk the talk, not to use a cliche, but that's really what we're saying here. You experience it and flipped those moments of adversity, those situations around to understand it and move past it or through it. Always appreciate you, man. It's like good stuff today.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you too.
We'll talk soon. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.